Hello everyone, and welcome to a conversation with Janice Atkinson MEP. Janice is the author of an important new book entitled The Migrant Crime Wave, the EU Cover-Up Revealed. It's one of those books that's packed with facts and breaking news. Facts aren't racist. And I've had the opportunity to read the book, and all I can say is that if ever you thought we needed to see the EU fall before it brings down our civilization, well, the reasons are all evidently detailed in the book. Warm welcome, Janice.
Hi, good evening, David, and good evenings for all your viewers.
Janice, thanks for joining us. Just to start off with, can you tell our viewers how the book came about and why you thought it was important to get these facts out there?
Actually, it was a journalist that suggested we do something. He said to me, there's no definitive guide to migration and crime, and there's got to be a link. He'd searched for it via Eurojust and Europol and the Statistics Agency for the EU. And then he started searching for it statistically, fact-based from country to country. And because France and Sweden don't actually record what nationality, race, or whether they're migrants or refugees, so we started looking into that. And what we found actually is that the EU is supposed to update its statistics periodically, hopefully on a 6-month, even a monthly basis. But there's this deathly silence from about sort of 2014 on some reports, 2015 and even 2016. So we started trawling through the reports and we found some shocking statistics.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, one of the most mind-boggling statistics, and my mind was well and truly boggled having read it, was that according to Frontex, around about 4 million, mostly Muslim, crossed the Schengen borders between 2014 2017. Curiously, Janice, the years when some of those countries had a statistical blackout. And I noticed that in your book, the EU refers to them as irregular migrants, but they're really just illegal immigrants, aren't they?
It's interesting, the use of language by the EU. Irregular migrants suggests that this is going to stop anytime soon. And then you read the reports from my committee, which is the Libe committee, and the Commission come to the chamber in plenary month after month after month. This is not stopping. And then because we pay Turkey all this money to hold back some refugees and migrants, they've got 2.5 million sitting on what we can only describe as internment camps. And then we've got the camps in Libya, we've got the human trafficking, we've got the camps in Greece and Italy, etc. So for the moment, it's been stemmed, but what they're doing is coming through the Balkans, and they're also going to be coming through Spain. I was in Spain about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I went to see the Guardia Civil, the people that police the Mallorca's territory, Spain's territory, over in Mallorca of Melilla and Ceuta. And there's thousands and tens of thousands of them sitting there. And Frontex said to me, and also the Guardia Civil, that 20,000 came last year. We're expecting 40,000 this year. And then Matteo Salvini in Italy got elected. So the boats have started going over to Spain. And I don't think it's particularly a shock that Spain's centre-right conservative government fell. And when they fell, who did they put in place? It was the socialists. And as soon as the socialists got in, no general election, and then the boats started being directed. Whereas Malta, which is a socialist country, was refusing the boats as well. So they're coming. And what we found from the statistics, and again, the EU statistics, we know there's 6.6 million people waiting to invade our country. That's without the 10 million that are poised to come that the EU and UN figures are saying. So they're quite frightening figures. So irregular migration means it will stop soon.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that looking in the book, Janice, and again in the first chapter, the whole thing on immigration, if you look at the asylum applications by country and look at the pattern over the last 3, 4, 5 years, some of it is staggering. The absolute numbers going into, like Germany, I mean, you look at the just incredible statistics. And, you know, when you look at that, how are these defined as asylum? That's a question I've got for you. How are these asylum seekers when some of them are coming from as far away as Afghanistan? And last time I looked on a map, there's a bit of a gap. How does that work? How is that asylum?
I know Merkel actually took 1.34 million people in after 2015, and I think the statistics are 850,000 of them were Muslim refugees. But you have to listen to the language in the parliament, because they're not refugees anymore, they're not asylum seekers. Over the past 6 to 8 months, the language has changed. They're now saying refugees. Everybody is a refugee. If you look at the UN's agency, which is called the IOM, if you look at them, you follow them on Twitter, as I do, the language has changed there as well. So from the UN to the EU, they are now refugees. So how do you now distinguish between who's a migrant, who's a refugee and asylum seeker? And what's really frightening in this, and they really don't like hearing this, and we on the right say it an awful lot, is that in this migration rush, that we're missing the real refugees and the real asylum seekers here, because over 80% of the people that are coming are fit young men. And most of those young men, they are leaving their women, their children, their wives, their aunts, their mothers behind in the hope that they can get here. And many of them are being people trafficked as well, and they're still coming out of Libya, and they're coming through the Balkans and others. And it's a very lucrative trade, the human trafficking, which is sad. And then actually that goes into terrorism as well. So it's not just about crime and migration. Human trafficking, which is a nasty, pernicious trade, goes directly recycled back into terrorism and exported onto our shores.
But it sort of looks like when you look at all those statistics, Janice, and you look at across the piece, it's like the European Union, Europe, is being turned into this vast swamp brimming with refugees. And so it's becoming the biggest refugee camp in the world. And yet, who voted for it?
None of us voted for it, but we'll look at the consequences. When I joined the European Parliament in 2014, when I got elected, none of this had started. It really started happening in 2015. And we were called racists, xenophobes, Little Englanders, just really quite nasty nasty labels. So Marine Le Pen would stand up, Matteo Salvini and others, and we would just say that we can't open our borders. We are protecting our culture, our identity, we have to do this. And this was poo-pooed. And we were called all those disgusting names. And then local elections started happening in Germany and Italy, Austria. And my group, the Europe of Nations and Freedom, nearly got H.E. Stracker's party, the FPO in Austria. He nearly became president. Just a few months later, the people voted again. They voted in a general election. And then our group became the majority in government along with the Conservatives. And then Matteo Salvini started becoming more popular in the polls. And the language changed in the parliament. So rather than becoming racist, xenophobes, etc., we were now called populists. And of course, we love that title because the politicians could see the shift away from Merkel, away from the usual Conservatives and the Tusk parties in Poland. And then you had Poland re-elected, bigger majority, a bigger turnout for Viktor Orban. And these people are saying they are not having any migrants. You forget it. We've got peaceful, great countries. So you can see the sort of language that's changing. And the people are revolting. So we never asked for all of this. No, absolutely not. You know, we didn't vote to have Leicester, Birmingham, Tower Hamlets, vast tracts of London become unrecognisable, where they're chasing out the indigenous population. And also the Jews have been chased out of East London as well. Nobody asked us whether we wanted that. Nobody asked, Merkel didn't ask her electorate, but her electorate are now telling us her this. And in Bavaria in September, it's likely she could lose Bavaria, which is unheard of, and Lower Saxony as well. And of course, we got the election of my friend Matteo Salvini, who is de facto prime minister. So the people are revolting. They're now saying, no more.
But what can I ask you, because one of the things the book says that even if all the migration stopped right now, due to the rocketing birth rate, the Muslim population in Europe going to double in 30 years. And under the, I think it's Dublin 4 regulation, Janice, it's likely to treble. And when I looked in the statistics below that, I mean, Sweden would become 30% Muslim. Mamma mia to that one. France and Germany, 18-20%. And the UK, not very far behind, 17. Is that not an incredible demographic change? And it's almost unstoppable because it's already been put in place. What's your thoughts on that aspect of, if you like, the demographic change that's been put in place?
Yeah, no, I agree. The conclusion I come to in the book, and talking to the majority of my colleagues, actually across the right in the European Parliament, is that we have to stop all Muslim migration from North Africa and also from Pakistan. We've got the largest number of Pakistan Muslims in Europe, actually, and they've been responsible for the grooming gangs, the rape gangs, and that's what we have to stop. I am not against migration. I'm not against migration maybe from the Middle East, from certain countries, but as Trump is doing, let's actually just filter where the migrants are coming. And basically, if you can add to our GDP, you're not going to be a drain, a burden on our school. If you come here, you can add to our GDP, you pay for your schooling, you pay for your healthcare, and you will be renting in the private sector, and you wouldn't necessarily be allowed to buy a house until you've had resident status. We can do this post-Brexit. So we have this stop, not a complete and utter blanket stop, but until those people from those communities, in mainly Pakistan, living in our country, in Leicester, Birmingham, Tower Hamlets, etc., until they've integrated and they can learn to speak English, because there's around 700,000 people that don't speak English in our country, and they're working on low wages, they're working in the black economy. Their future is bleak. They're not earning the money, they're being exploited. And until we integrate them, then we should have this ban. And I've only recently come to this conclusion. My friend Geert Wilders in the Netherlands has been very vociferous on this, and my French friends too. But it's only recently, actually after writing the book and really looking into what's happening in our country, I think that we should have this temporary ban until we've had assimilation, and then we'll review it just as Trump is trying to do.
Well, the other thing, Janice, is that the book kind of talks us through, and it's really interesting. It's the link between the migration, criminality, drugs. I mean, it's really quite eye-opening when you sort of study what the book's telling us, because it's not. We're inviting in and have invited in a massive crime tsunami. And again, it's all there for people to read in the book. When you go through it, I can't understand why anybody would want anyone who's going to, as you say, destroy our GDP and in some cases, as we see, facilitate the organised crime gangs, which appears to be, as the book says, what, a 4.5 billion industry. So I can understand why the boats want to come, but surely we've got to stop them.
Yeah, the crime statistics, if you look at the prison population alone, in Austria, that tiny little country in the middle of Europe, nobody is more European than the Austrians, but they've turned. Their prison population is 54% foreign born. You look at Italy, it's just nearly 30%. But of those that are committing the crimes, it's 70 to 80% which are migrants that are committing the rapes, the property crime, and also the violent crime. So exponentially, they're actually represented in the statistics. And it doesn't matter which country you go to in the EU 28, it's replicated. And then you look at the sentences that are given for jihadi attacks and violent crime. And in the UK, we've got an average of 5 years. And it varies. Actually, Southern Ireland, they've got longer sentences, but not so much of a problem. Most of it is covered up by Leo Varadkar. But the numbers in disproportionately of the migrants that are in our prisons is quite frightening. We've actually got about, I was trying to look up the number of jihadis that we've got now sitting in our jails. Let's see if I can find that. It's gone up again exponentially. You look at, according to Looking at rape statistics, in Germany, migrants committed an average of 2 sex crimes per day. That was 2013. In 2014, they committed 3 per day. In 2015, 5 per day. And 2016, 10 per day. Now, you think about what the women are actually putting up with. Gang rape has gone up as well. The number of gang rapes have increased exponentially again, and they're mainly from immigrant backgrounds and mostly from Muslim countries. And that's replicated right across the EU.
I think that's the piece, Janice, because if we look at Sweden, Sweden's another, the rape capital of the West. And we look at, again, as you say, it's the same pattern, isn't it? It's not, you can't say it's just one country or one particular, it's across all the countries, really. So your book's called The Migrant Crime Wave, and it really is a crime wave, which must be costing the governments vast amounts of money, coping with the consequences of the illegal drugs. And again, the drug section is really interesting. I learned lots of new things about some of the forms of drugs that are coming in. It's interesting. It's not just heroin that's the issue, is it? It's these new kind of heroin's kind of old school now, isn't it? Really.
Well, heroin. We've known for a while. 80 tons. It's mainly coming from Afghanistan. While we can't stop that, we know it's coming in via the Balkans as well. And then you've got the new synthetic drugs, the psychoactive substances, which if you walk around, you come out Charing Cross in London now, you've got the zombie addicts where they're taking spice and cat. And we've seen the pictures in the Daily Mail and the other newspapers where you've literally got zombies walking around, and that's coming in as well. You've got cocaine, and then you get the more sophisticated crime like intellectual property crime, which and organised property, cultural goods trafficking, cybercrime. It doesn't stop there. But it's also the trafficking of firearms as well that's coming again in through the dark net, and it's coming across the Balkans. And we have this constant battle in the EU. It's like, why can't you police your borders? Why can't the individual states put up their own borders? And of course, once they do take matters in their own hands, as Viktor Orban has in Hungary, and the Austrians now, again, going back to Austria, little Austria, they're putting up their fences as well. And they've got 3 months to do this. And this is being extended by kind permission of the EU Commission, but it should be nothing to do with them. But what they have to do is admit that actually Schengen failed. The open borders. This is all very nice in the 90s where, you can have little Johnny going off to university in Prague or over to The Hague or wherever, and we're all culturally learning, we're all flying around, having our holidays and doing business. But now, where is the common sense in keeping our borders open and the Schengen system? And the likes of Juncker, Tusk, etc., all the people that we're battling with in Brexit, this is a no-go area. This cannot even be discussed in the EU. Schengen is sacrosanct. It's like the euro. It must be saved. They cannot admit they're wrong. But in history, what does it teach us? When we're wrong, then we do something about it. And if they don't, I'm fearful that these crime numbers, our prison statistics, will have more jihadi attacks. And again, a few months ago, Frontex produced a report. There's around about 1,000 jihadi brides waiting to come back into our countries. I said, I want to discuss this. And it was voted down. So I turned around and said to him, you've all got blood on your hands. So because the next time we have a Bataclan or a Manchester, then you people have blood on your hands. Because another report said there's 50,000 of them that have slipped through the open borders, the porous external borders, and they're all marching through. Now, has anybody seen, most people have seen the pictures of the migrants coming over the Alps during the winter. Yeah. Yes, you hear the odd tragedy where they've died, but do you ever wonder where they got their snow boots from, their snow jackets, their bobble hats? This is the mosque route that is planned into Europe, and that needs exposing as well. I haven't got resources to do it, but I'm on good authority. There's a few people that are doing it, that generation identity. When something's found, close it, but they're wedded to it. And I fear, actually, we've got another few months of this, David. In May 2019, the EU goes to elections. And I think my group, the ENF, and the people in Nigel Farage's group in the FDD will come back stronger, much larger. And I hope they have one group. And once they come back, the likes of Tusk, Juncker, the fouled politicians, Timmermans, they'll be gone. They won't be reappointed, and we'll have a new, fresh commission that hopefully will have some common sense. So we're at a tipping point here. We can save our continent, but we have to wait until after May 19 to do it, because it's hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good, actually, positive note, Janice, to sort of maybe to bring things to an end on, because when you do go through the book, the statistics are so damning. There's just no hiding from the fact. You call it a migrant crime wave, which it is. It also feels to me like an invasion, if I'm being honest. It feels like a third world invasion into the world, and that doesn't kind of end well from history, if we want to look back there as well. So, and when we see, like we saw in Germany just 2 days ago in Lubeck, where a guy on a bus killed one person, injured 6 other people, and within 24 hours it's suppressed, it's hushed up. And this seems to be the EU way. They rather than deal with the issue, they suppress it, they close it down. And surely that's the antithesis of what democracy is all about.
Yeah, they've all got mental illness if they have committed these crimes. Where did they get the one in Canada just 24 hours ago? There's a video of him on Facebook where he has gone to like a summer camp for jihadis. He's tooled up with knives and guns, etc. And the Canadian police are trying to say, oh, well, he found the knife on the floor. And then he knew exactly how to use his weapons. And my friend Vance of Rebel Media has been vilified on Canadian media. And the same thing happened here with the BBC and across the media. They won't report what's going on. But luckily, we have people like you. We have politicians that are exposing this, and we have social media all the time that we're allowed to use the social media, because I talk about an invasion of migrants. When you've got people coming through your countries and committing the acts of terror that they are and committing the crimes that they are, that's an invasion by any other name. And don't stop using that term.
No, absolutely. And I think perhaps as we sort of just agreed, Janice, that the best hope we have, and it's always good to leave people with hope, it is that the people of Europe, the peoples of Europe are rising up, and they're supporting those who say what you say, just plainly stating it's just facts. And what annoys me is when people like yourself and you provide this information, and then you're damned as being some kind of racist, when in actual fact all you're seeking to do is to make Europe safe again. What's wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not make Europe great again as my little TV show, but make Europe safe again. Yeah. And when I usually go on foreign media, and I get a slightly hard time, not as hard as I get on the BBC, but I did France 24 a couple of weeks ago, and they put some people up against me. And again, I was doing a Zoom interview like this, and all they kept levelling at me: "You're a racist. This is what you're saying here is not true." And I said, counteract me then. Are these facts X, Y, Z about numbers? Are they not true? The rapes, are they not true? The prison numbers, are they not true? The 50,000 jihadis, the 1,000 jihadi brides. These are UN or US or EU figures. Are they not correct? And again, they'll just shout, try to shout you down. And they sound ridiculous. And what these people should remember, and there's another heartening fact as well, I think, for the UK's democracy. There was a poll produced by the Sunday Times at the weekend that said round about 34% of people, so that's a third of the population, and a third of the population that vote, so on average about 34% and maybe 70% are not going to vote for the old mainstream parties. Now that's a crisis in our democracy that's been made directly by the EU. It's been made directly by Mrs May, Mr Cameron and the likes of Blair. They have created this crisis. So where do those people go? Our representative democracy is pretty finished in this country because we've got first past the post. So something new is required. Luckily, people abroad on the continent, they have a proportional representation system which is allowing the likes of Matteo to come through and Viktor Orban, etc. And what we need is a charismatic new leader that says, this is the way forward. This is the vision for Britain, because I don't know about you, David, but I can't see many visionaries out there. You might be saying, I won't do this or I might do that, but there's nobody painting a vision of us in the big world post-Brexit. I think Jacob Rees-Mogg is trying. I think Gerard Batten is doing his bit, but he's battling, and because they're now surging in the polls again, the guns are turned on them. It's okay for the Daily Mail and the Sun to have a go at our Prime Minister and try and anoint and appoint a new one, but the rest of us are not allowed to have those opinions. And again, I think that's becoming quite a dangerous state.
Well, I think in all these situations, Janice, the one thing that is really good is, I think, if you provide people with facts, with information, and therefore I would simply suggest, and here's Janice's book, everyone, and I would suggest that people avail themselves of a copy of it. Janice, just tell us where people can get this.
They can email me and I will send them a hard copy, or the easiest thing is to download it from janiceatkinson.co.uk. It's on the front page and you can download it in PDF format. Okay,
well, I think I would heartily endorse that everyone that's watching this just get a copy, because it's horrific. It's also important to know reality. We don't want to live in a fool's paradise. And if we have facts, then from facts we can put together, hopefully, a better future for all of the peoples of Europe, not the peoples of the third world. On that note,
we have to save our culture, heritage, and identity. So thank you very much, David, for giving me the opportunity to plug my book.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure, Janice. Thanks for talking. Speak soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.